Hey, welcome to Vice Grip Garage. I'm your unreliable host, Derek. The old finger remover 4000. Extra CFMs. No, actually.
Nobody expected a guy with a broken phone and a dying car to end up on television, but Derek Burris did. He built one of the most unlikely success stories in automotive media from almost nothing. In just a few years, he went from filming cars in a garage to hosting his own television show watched by millions. Then everything changed. Roadworthy Rescues ended, and when fans finally got the answers to why it did, Derek's explanation wasn't what anyone saw coming. What really led to the sudden end of his show? And was there more behind his rise and fall than fans realized? Join us as we uncover the real details of what happened to Derek Bieri. The story behind the face of Vice Grip Garage. Long before millions of people knew him as the face of Vice Grip Garage, Derek Bieri was just a kid growing up in the wide-open landscapes of North Dakota. It was the kind of place where life moved at its own pace, where endless stretches of farmland were dotted with old machinery, forgotten trucks, and weather-beaten cars slowly being reclaimed by nature. To many people, those rusting vehicles looked like scrap metal, but to Derek, they looked like creative possibilities. From an early age, he developed a mindset that shaped the rest of his life. Around him, things were not simply thrown away when they broke. They were repaired and given another chance. That mindset became deeply rooted in the way he approached things. He learned that value wasn't always found in something shiny and new. Sometimes it was hidden beneath years of neglect, waiting for someone willing to put in the effort to uncover it. As he grew older, his path wasn't a straight line toward internet fame. Like many people, he spent years building a life that looked successful on paper. He served in the military, where discipline and problem-solving became second nature. Later, he entered the business world, pursuing a more traditional career. The steady paycheck, predictable routine, and professional environment offered security, but something was missing. Despite achieving goals that many would envy, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was moving further away from the things that genuinely excited him. The vehicles, the tools, the challenge of bringing forgotten machines back to life. Those passions never disappeared. They simply waited in the background while he navigated the responsibilities of adulthood. Then came the idea that would eventually change everything. In 2007, he launched Vice Grip Garage. At the time, there was no master plan to build one of the largest automotive channels on the internet. There was no production team, no expensive equipment, and no guarantee that anyone would care. He simply began recording himself working on vehicles, sharing the process with whoever happened to stumble across it online. The videos were simple and refreshingly different. Instead of scripted explanations, viewers got a front-row seat to real projects, real mistakes, and real victories. Derek talked to the camera the same way he would talk to a friend standing beside him in the garage. That authenticity became his greatest strength and appealed to everyone. As the audience grew, so did the opportunities. More people discovered his unique style of rescuing forgotten cars and attempting impossible road trips in vehicles that had no business being on the road. What started as a hobby gradually became something much bigger. Then, in 2018, Derek made the boldest decision of his life. He walked away from the comfort and stability of his corporate career and committed himself fully to Vice Grip Garage. It was a leap into uncertainty, but one driven by conviction rather than calculation. He was choosing to spend his life doing the thing that made him feel most alive. What followed was more than the growth of a YouTube channel. It was the creation of a community built around perseverance, humor, and the belief that almost anything deserves a second chance. And beneath the engines, road trips, and mechanical adventures, that simple idea remains at the heart of Vice Grip Garage today. But what gave him the assurance that a gamble would be worthwhile than a steady pay? He had a good job, but hated it. Before Vice Grip Garage existed, Derek Bieri was a corporate executive. Not the kind of corporate that sounds glamorous from the outside and turns out to be an entry-level desk job. The real kind with the management roles, business suits, meetings that ran 3 hours longer than they needed to. A career that paid well and looked successful, and made him feel like he was slowly disappearing. He had started out as an actual hands-on auto technician, a guy who could take apart an engine and put it back together and explain exactly what had gone wrong and how to fix it. Then the career moved in the direction that careers in skilled trades sometimes move, from doing the work to managing the people who do the work. And somewhere in that transition, he lost the thing that had made him interested in the work in the first place. He told the Chris and Sandy show that he had gone from being a hands-on tech to high-level executive roles, and that beneath the business suits and the boardroom meetings was a man who belonged in a garage and not behind a desk. He traded the predictability of the corporate world for busted bolts and never looked back. The moment that started, everything was simple. He was watching Roadkill on YouTube, the show where David Freiberger and Mike Finnegan bought cheap cars and drove them across the country and fixed them in parking lots, and basically had the best time possible while everything went wrong. And he thought to himself that he could do that. The only thing he didn't know how to do was film, so he figured that out the cheapest way available. He broke an old iPhone, taped it to his garage door, put a small block V8 and a 4-speed transmission into a Camaro, got it running, and uploaded the video. Nobody saw the first one or engaged with it, but he didn't give up. He uploaded another one, then another, and kept going. The reason Vice Grip Garage grew is easy to understand once you've watched 5 minutes of it. Derek Bieri is genuinely funny, genuinely knowledgeable, and genuinely doesn't care whether what he is doing looks professional. That combination of that real expertise delivered with zero pretension and a kind of self-aware humor is rare enough in any format that when an audience finds it, they tend to stay. His vocabulary became its own inside joke. Carburetors became fuel maker happeners. Spark plugs became sparkulators. Plug wires became lightning hoses. A wrench used as a hammer became a carburetor adjuster. A portable gas can with an electric pump became an NHRA fuel container. None of this was designed by a marketing team. It was just how he talked, and his audience found it irresistible. He described his content from the beginning as budget builds, rescues, and how-tos for the common folk. And that description was both accurate and strategically brilliant without being calculated. He was making content for people who could not afford the $30,000 restoration shops and did not want to spend 2 years sanding panels to a mirror finish. He was making content for people who wanted to buy a $400 car from a barn, get it running over a weekend, and drive it to work on Monday. Those people existed everywhere. They just hadn't been talked to directly. By the time he hit 1.2 million subscribers and 240 million views, he had built something that the automotive content world had not quite seen before. A genuine community built around the specific pleasure of watching someone fix something that had been given up on. The cars weren't impressive on paper. The production values weren't impressive either, at least not at the start. What was impressive was the authenticity, and that cannot be manufactured. His wife Jessica was part of it from early on, appearing on camera, helping with builds, doing logistics on drag-and-drive events where she was in charge of packing, navigation, tire swaps, fuel, and cold snacks, in that order. The channel was a family operation in the literal sense, not in the way that family-friendly content creators describe themselves to make their brand sound warm. His boys showed up in videos. His wife raced alongside him. The garage was the family home in one specific and important sense. So what happened when Motor Trend came calling and offered to put all of it on television? The television version of everything he'd already built. Roadworthy Rescues premiered on Motor Trend TV on September 27, 2022. The premise was exactly what Vice Grip Garage had always been, reformatted for a 45-minute weekly television slot. Derek goes to find an abandoned car that nobody wants anymore, rescues it, gets it running, and brings it back to the shop. The cars ranged from 1920s Model A's to muscle cars from the 1970s to trucks and SUVs that had been sitting in fields or barns or back lots for decades. The show worked because Derek was himself. The episodes didn't feel produced in the way that automotive television often feels produced. There was no drama manufactured for the sake of the format, no artificial cliffhangers, no contestants or competitions. Just a man and a dead car, and the genuine uncertainty of whether the car was going to cooperate. The episode titles alone tell you what the show was. The Turd Bird, The Barnaville, 777. These are not marketing department titles. These are what Derek called the cars because that was what he called things. The show ran 3 seasons, 8 episodes in Season 1, 12 in Season 2, 12 in Season 3. The final episode aired on February 26, 2025. The show's status is listed as ended. And then the questions started. After Roadworthy Rescues wrapped and no Season 4 was announced, the Vice Grip Garage community wanted to know why. The comment sections and the forums filled up with theories. Had Motor Trend canceled it? Had Derek quit? Was there a conflict? Had something happened? The answer, when it came, was something that the audience had seen before but hadn't expected to apply here. Because the reason Vice Grip Garage moved on from Roadworthy Rescues is almost identical to the reason Derek Bieri left the corporate world in the first place. The Grassroots Motorsports Forum captured the concern from the community accurately. Fans had noticed that signing deals with Motor Trend had not gone well for most people who tried it. Alex Taylor had run into scheduling chaos that kept a car from appearing at an event it was supposed to be at. Others had found the television production pipeline incompatible with the thing that had made their content work in the first place. For Derek, the issue was simpler and more fundamental than scheduling conflicts. He had already walked away from one good-paying corporate career because it required him to be someone he wasn't. The television format had produced a version of Vice Grip Garage that was more polished, more structured, and more dependent on production requirements than the thing he had built on YouTube. And the thing he had built on YouTube was, specifically, about not being polished or structured or dependent on anyone else's requirements. Television production requires schedules, approvals, and the kind of collaborative decision-making that involves layers of people between the person with the idea and the audience receiving it. For a man who had literally taped a broken phone to a garage door and uploaded whatever happened, the distance between that and a Wednesday night primetime slot on a cable network is significant. And it turns out that the distance matters when the distance is the thing you are trying to close. He had already made the move from Minnesota to Tennessee, in part because the cost of living was eating into what the channel was able to sustain. Multiple mortgages, multiple rents, utilities, taxes, and insurance across 2 states, all while running a production operation out of a garage. The Tennessee move was itself a statement about priorities. He was adjusting the infrastructure of his life to serve the work, rather than adjusting the work to serve the infrastructure. The Roadworthy Rescues ending follows that same logic. The television deal was the infrastructure, the YouTube channel and the community and the $400 barn cars, and the vice grip humor and the fuel maker happeners were the work. When the two came into conflict, and eventually they always came into conflict, Derek chose the work. So when the television deal, the very thing meant to elevate his platform, started pulling him away from the raw, hands-on work that built his audience in the first place, the question naturally becomes, how many times can someone be pulled into the corporate world before they finally decide the garage, the grit, and the community matter more than the system trying to package them? The corporate world tried to claim him twice. The most interesting thing about Derek Bieri's story is not that it happened once, it happened twice, and both times the outcome was the same. The first time, he was an auto tech who became a corporate executive, and eventually walked away from that because he missed doing the actual thing. He traded the suit for a garage, the meetings for engine work, the corporate calendar for whatever was interesting that week. The second time, he was a YouTube creator who became a television host and eventually walked away from that because the television version of his work required him to be further from the actual thing than he was comfortable being. The production schedule replaced the calendar. The network's requirements replaced the corporate requirements. The distance between him and the work he loved was created by a different institution, but it was the same distance. Both times, the thing he chose over the career opportunity was the same thing. The garage, the cars, the direct connection between himself and the work, without layers of management or production requirements or institutional structure in the way. He described his family as his reason for leaving the corporate world the first time. He said his family was not content. They were his reason for everything. The channel, the show, the Tennessee move, the decision to walk away from Roadworthy Rescues on his own terms rather than waiting for Motor Trend to decide something, all of it runs through the same core. He wants to be in a garage. He wants his family around him. He wants to talk to his audience like they're standing next to him while he works. And he has proven twice now that he is willing to leave a financially significant arrangement to maintain those things, because the arrangement that takes him away from those things is not an arrangement he can sustain. So if he keeps choosing the garage, the family, and the audience over every polished, higher-paying structure offered to him, the real question becomes, what does it actually say about a creator when the bigger opportunity never really replaces the thing they built in the first place? Why the channel never actually stopped? Here is the thing that the Vice Grip Garage is canceled, framing misses completely. Vice Grip Garage was never canceled. The YouTube channel has been running continuously throughout and after the Roadworthy Rescues period. The channel has over 1.39 million subscribers, and the videos never ceased. Roadworthy Rescues on Motor Trend is what ended. And when that didn't work out, Vice Grip Garage on YouTube is what he went back to. The headline and the reality are pointing in opposite directions. He lives in Tennessee now with Jessica and their boys. The move saved them significant money compared to running operations across Minnesota and Wisconsin, and put them in a more central location that let him attend more events and be more present for the things that matter. The shop is operational. The cameras are rolling. The fuel maker happeners are being adjusted with carburetor adjusters. He told the Chris and Sandy show that his story is one of faith, family, hustle, and humility. He said he traded deadlines for busted bolts and never looked back. He said it the first time he left corporate life, and the evidence of the last several years suggests he meant it just as literally the second time. The man who taped a broken iPhone to his garage door in 2017 and uploaded whatever happened is still doing exactly that. He just does it in Tennessee now, with a bigger shop and a clearer sense of what he is, and is not willing to trade away to do it. So here is the question Derek Bieri's story leaves you with. He walked away from a corporate career that paid well because it kept him out of the garage. Then he walked away from a television career that paid well because it kept him too far from the version of the garage work he had built on YouTube. Both times, the thing he chose was the same. How many people have the chance to choose the thing they actually love twice and choose it both times? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.